They say curiosity can be dangerous, but sometimes it's the only thing keeping you alive. And that morning, as I drove down the deserted highway toward Mayfield Farm, I couldn't help but feel that my mother had left me more than just a letter. She'd left me a trail. The sky was still grey from last night's storm. My wipers squeaked across the windshield as I turned onto the old country road. Trees leaned over the path like watchful eyes. I hadn't been out this way in decades. When I was a little girl, I'd heard whispers about Mayfield, that our family once owned it before something terrible happened there. My parents never talked about it. Every time I asked, my mother would just say, "Some places are better left in the past, Lily." But now, that past was calling me back. I reached the rusted gate around noon. The paint on the wooden sign had faded, but I could still make out the words. Mayfield Farm, private property. The air was thick with the smell of wet soil and wild grass. I pushed the gate open, its hinges screaming in protest, and drove through. The farmhouse looked like it hadn't been touched in 50 years. Shingles missing, vines crawling up the porch, windows cracked. Still, there was something hauntingly familiar about it. As I stepped out of the car, I felt a strange sensation, like being watched. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, but I forced myself forward. Inside, the air was stale. Dust hung in the light like tiny ghosts. I walked through the old living room. Faded wallpaper, broken furniture, and photographs still hanging crooked on the wall. And then I saw it. A photo of my parents standing in front of this very house. Only, they looked much younger. And in my mother's arms was a baby, but it wasn't me. The baby had dark hair and my mother's eyes. But that child wasn't me. I was blonde. I stared at it for a long time before whispering, "Who are you?" My heart pounded. Was it possible my parents had another child? Someone they never told me about. I started searching the house, room by room. Most of the doors were jammed, but in the back hallway, one opened easily, as if someone had been there recently. Inside was a small study. The smell of old books filled the air, and on the desk sat another rose symbol, carved into the wood, the same broken stem rose from my mother's letter. Underneath it, I found a metal box. It was locked, but the rusted hinges gave way when I pried it open with a screwdriver I'd found in the kitchen. Inside the box was another letter, sealed with red wax. My mother's handwriting again. I opened it with trembling hands. "If you found this, Lily, then Daniel has probably told you nothing. We couldn't tell you while we were alive. You deserve the truth. About Mayfield, about Daniel, and about who you really are." My knees nearly gave out. About who I was. I read on, my eyes racing across the page. "You were adopted, Lily. You were brought to us when you were 6 months old. The papers were sealed, and we swore never to reveal it. But we couldn't destroy them. They're hidden here, in Mayfield. We hoped one day you'd understand why we kept this secret." The room started spinning. I gripped the edge of the desk to steady myself. Adopted. My whole life, every memory, every moment of love was based on a lie. I felt anger, grief, confusion, all at once. Then I heard it. A creak upstairs. I froze. The air in the room changed. Heavy, still. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I took a few cautious steps toward the staircase. Every board creaking under my feet. My pulse thundered in my chest. The upper floor was dim, but a faint light glowed from the far bedroom. When I reached the doorway, I stopped cold. There, sitting on the dusty bed, was a man. His clothes were old, his hair grey, but his eyes were the same shade of green as mine. He looked up at me slowly, as if he'd been waiting. "You came," he said softly. "She said you would." My mouth went dry. "Who are you?" I whispered. He smiled faintly. "Your mother's brother, and the only one who knows what really happened to the first child born in this house." I stepped back. my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear his words. "What are you talking about?" He stood, his face pale. "You shouldn't have come here, Lily. If Daniel finds out you're digging into this, he won't let you live long enough to learn the truth." My blood ran cold. "Daniel," I gasped. He nodded slowly. "Your brother isn't who you think he is, and neither are you." I stumbled back, staring at him, my heart racing. "What do you mean?" He looked out the window, his voice trembling. Mayfield wasn't just a farm. It was where the Green family hid their sins. And the biggest one was buried right beneath our feet. Thunder cracked outside, shaking the windows. And just then, from the distance, I saw headlights cutting through the rain. A black car pulling up to the gate. Daniel, to be continued. If you want to hear what happened next, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.